Going to take John from Montana, who wants to talk about evidence against the existence of the soul. Hello, Ben. John, sorry.
Hey guys, how are you doing?
Very, very good.
Right.
How are
about
you?
you?
I'm doing all right. Just kind of got cleaned up for the day. I'll jump right into it because I know you guys got a lot of calls. Although, hey, congratulations, doctor.
Thank you.
I have an associate degree in nursing, and
Awesome.
that itself was fun process, and I'm working on more. So, hey, congratulations. I know it's been a lot of hard work for you.
Yeah, thank you so much. What's your discussion today?
All right. So I was listening to a debate with R.N. Raw and Tom Jump with these two theists, these two preachers, a father and a son. I don't remember their names. They looked like non-robotic Mark Zuckerberg, for lack of a better term. Some people might know them. Anyway, I believe they were discussing the existence of the soul. And there was something that stood out to me that I thought I think at least qualifies as evidence against. I had it really well in my mind. I'm trying to keep it. Let's see. So the descriptions that were given for the soul, the definitions that are given, and I know that's kind of wonky because when we're talking about something like that, context is everything and different people have different definitions. But I think that the logic pans out. Basically, whether a soul is described as material or immaterial, whether you describe it as the self or the being or whatever it is, generally across the board, the soul has some kind of effect, some kind of influence. And please feel free to stop me if you guys need to halt me at any point. And Tom Jump, I think it was, presented some arguments from a few studies where utilizing and I wish I could remember the exact process, but basically with brain chemistry and scanning the brain, we are able to, and I think he said up to 5 seconds beforehand, and I really hope I'm not misquoting, but I think up to 5 seconds beforehand with, and this is the important part, I believe, and again, if I'm misquoting, please somebody correct me, 100% accuracy. And it seems to me that basically, regardless of whether the soul is material or immaterial, however you define it, it seems to me that this kind of accounts for the different variables and the different possible contexts. But it seems to me that regardless of how you define it, if the soul is having some influence, if there's an effect, which is it's described as effects on decisions, thought processes, emotions, all sorts of different stuff, that should, I would think, reflect in brain chemistry in a way where we wouldn't have 100% accuracy. I would think there would be some, for lack of a better term, unaccounted for percentage. There would be some brain chemistry going on that wouldn't seem accounted for, or decisions or emotions or thoughts that would not be accounted for in that. And I think at least the fact that we are able to, with 100% accuracy, looking at brain chemistry, predict every single choice a person will make. And he put it really well. He was like, if you're going to walk into a restaurant, we know if you're going to walk in a restaurant. When you sit down, we know if you're going to order a burger or pizza or whatever, with 100% accuracy. If there were any other piece, like a soul, having any kind of influence, whether it's material, immaterial, however you want to put it, I would think that that would reflect. And so I don't think it disproves, but I think
I have a lot of questions.
Least, if that makes sense.
I have a lot of questions about that study and that anything could be determined with 100% accuracy, especially specific decisions in a human brain. Because, yeah, you can determine what molecules are going where, what receptors they're acting on. But to then take the leap that knowing where these molecules are can tell us exactly what a person's going to do, I'm skeptical about that. Because you really, even if that does happen, it's like, I'm just really curious about how they set up that study and how they determined that they could predict all of this. And I really need to see the studies. But even so, like if somebody is claiming that the soul is not natural, that it is supernatural, and that has influence on the natural world, I don't think that there would be unaccounted for brain activity, because the assumption that, especially if you're talking about a perfect creation, that there would be efficiency across the board. There would be input from the soul that it's translated directly into brain chemistry. And the problem is, like, why it makes such a good argument for them is that it's unfalsifiable. You can't prove that there even is that input to begin with. But I don't think that the fact that there's 100% accountability for what the brain chemistry is doing necessarily says anything about whether or not there is a supernatural input. So I just think the best argument against is the fact that it is completely unfalsifiable, that there is any supernatural input at all. I don't know. Am I following correctly, or am I missing something?
Oh no, you absolutely are, and that's exactly why I wanted to call. Is I was thinking it through, and I was going, I don't think I have a perfect argument. It kind of applies to particular context, particular descriptions, and it does, like, I'm thinking it through and doesn't feel like a perfect argument, but you did actually kind of answer some of my questions on the logic of it. I guess I was thinking of it almost like when you look for a black hole, you don't look for the black hole, you look for the effects on the space around it. You're looking more for what isn't there than what is in some ways. And that's also a very grave oversimplification as well. But in that kind of way, I guess I thought I found, I suppose, a falsifiability for it, in that it's, well, taking into account, I guess, descriptions and definitions that do have it having an effect on the choices and emotions and thought processes. I guess it seems to me more of a, what is it? Almost a Napoleon, hey, where's God in your description of the cosmos? Oh, I had no need of him. It's a, hey, just about all this brain chemistry is accounted for. And just real fast before I go off on that, I agree. I want to do some more research into the study that Tom Jump was referring to. He tried to go into greater detail, but the pastors were kind of cutting him off and stuff. He was very much simplifying it for the debate, kind of like I am here. So I am curious to see that. But I remember when I was watching it, the way he described it made sense. And I know that's not a convincing argument, but I'd be curious to see more about that, because if that is true, I don't know. It kind of seems to me that depending on the definition of the soul, even if it is kind of hey, evolution is how everything happened, but God's the puppet master behind the scenes controlling it. And that way it's like, yeah, brain chemistry decides what happens for the body, but the soul might be the secret puppet master. I still am inclined to go, doesn't that leave it in, if we are able to do that with 100% accuracy, that kind of leaves it as that there's no need for it. We already know how it all works. And
yeah, I agree with you.
Does that make sense?
I agree with you that there's no reason to jump to a soul, but I just disagree that this is evidence against it. I think we're still at a null hypothesis of, I'm not convinced that the soul is necessary, but I don't think it's I don't think it's disproof. I don't know.
And
Richard might have different thoughts.
I have, and I think even having a debate about a soul to begin with is granting far too much. Because look,
I agree.
I appreciate this was a debate that you've been talking to. So in that way, I think usually terms are defined before and they agree what they're talking about. So I don't want to talk too much about the debate specifically. But I think in general, when asking this question, if the claim there is a soul is being made, then the first thing that jumps to my mind is, what does that even mean? Because if you have a look at even amongst the world's religions, that can mean many, many, many different things. Just plucking from the top of my head, you have kind of the Abrahamic faith's kind of general. It's something that continues after death in some cases. Not even in all cases in every school of the Abrahamic faiths, But you've got this solid thing, let's say it's this solid thing that resides within us that after death continues on. In Hinduism, you've got something different. You've got, and again, in Hinduism, there's various different explanations for this, but the kind of black and white one from some schools of Hinduism is that the soul is a spark of God. It's actually part of God, and it comes down into the human form. And then when we become enlightened, we go and rejoin God. So the soul is something different. Again, in Buddhism, there isn't a soul. We have 5 things called khandhas, which are kind of they're called clinging aggregates, and it's the things that we cling to, and it's because we cling to these things, which are forms, feelings, perceptions, etc. Because we cling to these, that's what makes us kind of be reborn. And then you've got other religions again, like Taoism, which in some schools of Taoism, they believe that the physical body is the thing that lives forever, and you can actually have like physical eternity. So before I'd even have the conversation about a kind of soul, I would want to know, why are you saying that this particular soul has more kind of merit than all these other religions, all these other ideas of a soul? You know, you've got to filter through all these. You've got to demonstrate. It's like we talked about in the first call when we were talking about Occam's razor, and you know, you've just got this addition and addition and addition of claims that are going off. So you've got this claim, but you're discounting all these other people straight away. Why are you discounting these people? Why is your idea of a soul more likely than all these other religions' idea of a soul? And then why does it have more explanatory power than the human mind, the human person, whatever you want to call it, the human experience is coming from the brain and the nervous system? Why do you think a soul has more explanatory power than that? So there's so much work to do in this before you even get to the kind of I'm disproving a soul, because I don't know what I'm disproving. I don't even know what I'm trying to disprove.
That's why I wanted to kind of be careful with the words, is because I really wanted to specify, like I'm not saying disprove, because that is very tricky language for anything. And I was thinking, hey, I think this kind of this thought process applies to some different contexts, but I also know that there's as many different perspectives on this as people can speculate on the subject. And so I guess it is kind of a very narrow, okay, so in this particular discussion, if we are defining the terms this way, then here's what it is. So I guess, it doesn't really apply overall, I guess, if depending on who you ask about the soul. That's a really interesting kind of perspective, kind of bring it out of the narrow viewpoint to the broader, which I really like your point on that, because that also stretches kind of that simplified argument really applies to a lot of other things where it's, you know, how does your explanation have any more explanatory power? And oftentimes when it's, well, it seems to make sense to me, or this, it's, well, how do we know that what makes sense to you makes more sense than, you know, kind of thing. But that's a good way of looking at it. Sorry,
Ben, and any further thoughts?
No, I think we're mostly in an agreement here. I don't have a whole lot of other content to say about that.
Yeah, because most of everything you guys said, I agree with. It's something that's kind of like run through my head. I like to try to be objective and kind of consider all the different aspects. And especially when it comes to this stuff, they can be so complicated that it's like you never know what you're not. Well, sometimes it's not even a matter of you never know what you're not thinking of, because it just depends on what someone can wake up that day and decide, you know, here's a new thing. But thanks for taking the call, guys. I'll let you go. I got a lot more.
Absolutely. Thanks, John.
I'll call back another time.